Boston, Seattle, and Portland to emphasize that we should aim at global leadership in our environmental policies in Minneapolis, and we should realize that we're part of a planet-wide effort to reach environmental sanity and a sustainable future, and this ordinance is a small but crucial part of that effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Sarah Silver. After Sarah is Lynn Hoffman. No, there she is. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Sarah Silver, and I go to school in South Minneapolis. And every morning when I go to school, I drive along Hiawatha, and I see, like other people have said, there are just trash bags everywhere. And it's really a bummer because, when you think of a beautiful city and when you want to be proud of your city, you don't want it to be littered with trash everywhere. And all of these bags were collected along the Mississippi in just a few hours on Sunday. And an issue that hasn't been brought up much during this meeting is the environmental justice impact. Many of the bags that are thrown away are burned in the Herc burner downtown, and that's causing major pollution in North Minneapolis and downtown, and that's mostly impacting minorities and underprivileged communities. And there's a much higher rate of asthma and cancer and sicknesses in our city, and a lot of it is due to pollution. And as a young person, I think this is very important for me and my generation because the rate of pollution has been steadily increasing. And I think that it's my responsibility to take control of my future and represent my generation as a generation that cares about the environment and cares about my community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate that. Lynn Hoffman. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Gordon, council members. Thanks for having me. So my name is Lynn, and I'm here representing Eureka Recycling in support of the Bring Your Own Bag ordinance, including the fees for all single-use bags. As a nonprofit social enterprise with a zero-waste mission, we strongly support efforts toward the elimination of disposable bags, both paper and plastic, in favor of reusable bags made of renewable, safe materials. There's been a lot of great discussion today, so I just wanted to bring a few additional points for your consideration. One is that plastic bags are often reported as a very small percentage of the waste stream, which is because our discards are often measured in weight. And it's important to have metrics. It's important to measure when we can, but the tools available to us can sometimes have limitations, including life cycle analysis that are used to measure the impacts of single-use products. For example, most life cycle analysis typically take into consideration things like greenhouse gases and resources, which are easier to measure than social impacts or toxins in the way that they enter our food chain. Those kinds of impacts can be harder to put into an equation and harder to write down on paper. Finally, as part of our zero waste work, we operate a material recovery facility in Northeast Minneapolis, a MRF, sometimes called, where we currently process, which means sort and send to end markets to be recycled into new products, over 200 tons of recyclables a day from around the metro area. Recently, the Minneapolis City Council approved the Department of Public Works to negotiate a contract with Eureka to process all the recyclables from single-family homes in Minneapolis to begin in November. While plastic bags are recyclable through drop-off programs like grocery stores, which people have talked about, only 5% are actually recycled through this system. But in facilities like ours, they cause huge problems, like Robin showed in the slide. It's confusing for consumers. If these things are recyclable, why can't I put them in my recycling cart, right? So in short, most MRFs use equipment that run on axles to separate the material. And those bags get wound up and bound around those axles and cause major problems. So our facility has to shut down about an hour to 2 hours a day, and people have to climb in and cut out and pull out those plastic bags. So it really decreases the efficiency of recycling. And then those small bits of plastic also end up in other material streams, so they can contaminate the materials that are going to other markets, like the paper, things like that. So in short, we support this ordinance. We think it's very important towards meeting the city's zero waste goals and our zero waste mission, and we applaud your leadership on the issue. And we're available for any questions if we can be of any help.
Thank you very much. We also have a Kate Davenport. Okay. Next is Jonathan Mermin. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gordon and members of the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee. I'm Jonathan Mermin, and I represent the Trade Association for both the manufacturers and recyclers of plastic bags, and I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak today. Plastic bags are nearly all made, the kind that we're talking about are made in the United States. In fact, 30,000 people are employed in this industry, providing good jobs and good wages. Tote bags, by contrast, are made of a thicker oil-based polypropylene and are made all overseas. So one thing that Minneapolis might want to consider is why would a community encourage the substitution of a product that's made in the U.S. that is made from a byproduct, only a byproduct of natural gas, and substitute it for a product that's made overseas that is oil-based. Across the nation, plastic bags make up a very tiny portion of the waste stream. And before you there are some numbers that show the amount of waste that plastic bags take up compared to the total waste stream. So, and these are studies that were done by the Minnesota, or commissioned by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and also by Hennepin County. And what you see there is that plastics make up roughly 15% of the waste stream. The category of bag and plastic combined make up about 5%. And then within that category, plastic bags makes up 15% of that. So what you come down to is, whether you take into the exemptions in the ordinance, you're talking about affecting about 0.6% of the waste stream of Minneapolis. In fact, in 2010, the U.S. EPA showed that the nation is discarding now more of these kinds of bags than all of the high-density polyethylene plastic bags placed in the landfills. While a small fraction of cities in the U.S. have regulated bags, we know of no city that's ever proven that their ordinance actually reduced bag consumption, reduced litter, and achieved any meaningful environmental goal. Washington, D.C. has been held up by some in Minneapolis as sort of the paragon of plastic bag policy, where they levied a 5-cent fee that would be used to clean up the Anacostia River. Well, last year, the Washington Post conducted an investigation of that, and they found, and I quote, "Despite the growing praise for the program, the reality is as murky as the Anacostia. Measurements for success are admittedly non-scientific and vary widely, and more of the fund money has been allocated for field trips for school children and employee salaries than to any tangible cleanup projects on the river or the watershed." They purported to show, a couple months after introducing it, in 2010, an 85% decrease in plastic bags, but the Washington Post found that there was little evidence of such a sudden and drastic reduction, and even the main sponsor of the bill admitted to the Washington Post, quote, "Well, I know we did a back-of-the-envelope calculation, which is about as unscientific as possible." But most revealing is that one might ask that if you're going to pass a fee, as they did in Washington, you would expect that fee revenue from bags to start declining, right? Not so. In Washington, it actually went up 40% over a 4-year period. Washington did grow by 10% in population. It didn't grow 40%. So I'm sure that Minneapolis does not want to emulate the Washington, D.C. model. But other models as well, in Austin, where they've introduced a ban, reusable bags now make up the same proportion of the waste stream as did all the plastic bags combined. Other cities have passed plastic bag regulations and now have repealed them, including in Dallas, Fort Collins, Colorado, and Huntington Beach. But what I want to say today is that we're not, I'm going to wrap it up. What I'd like to say here is that we're, as an association, not here just to say no. We would like to work with Hennepin County, who we have met with and had discussions about building a partnership between the public and private sectors to try to address this issue and to try to improve the recycling rates, not just of plastic bags, but of the bigger piece, which is all plastic film and all plastic packaging. An effort would involve enhancing education, take-back programs, working with neighborhood merchant associations, and we think that by dealing with plastic waste in a comprehensive fashion, rather than aiming your sights at just one product that takes up 0.6% of the waste stream, you would be much more better off as a city, and this would be more cost-effective for small businesses and for their customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I'm just wondering if our cameraman can also, or camera operator, can get a picture of the green chart here, the minuscule amount of bags to be banned that were collected in 2011 in Hennepin County appears to be 344 tons.
Right.
That's minuscule.
Compare is a percentage of the waste stream is what we're talking about. That's the point of the chart.
It's a small percentage that weighs 344 tons.
It's exactly yep. of 53,000. Right. Thank you.
Well, maybe we can check the math.
Yeah, I'll just point out the math doesn't seem right on that either. I tried to do the percentage calculation and just a calculator, and it seems way off in terms of. Actually, it looks worse because I think it's a lot less than 344 tons. But
all right, thank you very much. Next speaker is Kendra Riddle.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Thanks for letting me be here, Counsel. I'm a small business owner, and I live in the Bancroft neighborhood, which is right in between a bus stop and a convenience store. And I've owned my house for 14 years, and I'm not lying when I say I've never purchased a grocery bag. When I found, or garbage bag rather, when I found that I've actually needed one, I've gone out and had to clean up my boulevard, which I've planted Minnesota native flowers, and it's all stuck there. And I contacted the convenience store, and I explained to him that everything that he's selling and all the bags that he's handing out are creating trash all along the street where we're living. And I got him to add more garbage bins, but there's no recycling bins, and there's more trash. Also, with my business, I don't hand out any bags, and actually my regular customers, they know through speaking to them and educating them that if they bring in their own containers, they get a hug, and they actually feel empowered by this. So what I would like to see with what you guys are creating is if you're actually creating loopholes for plastic bags to still be able to be used in some instances, because I sell donuts. I don't give out bags, they're food. Don't bust me on that, but that they would be compostable. All the ones that the newspapers come in, all the ones for the stores that people are buying cookies, they need to be compostable. Otherwise, this isn't solving any of the problems. And when people say that we need a choice, well, I think the choice would rather be to drink clean water. And if you do consume animals, that they're not full of plastic. And if the birds are dying because they're eating plastic, that's going to be more ticks, that's going to be more mosquitoes and everything else that are carrying other diseases. So it's not about just giving people this choice for selfish and laziness reasons. It's instead of enabling the citizens, I think they would rather be empowered to know and to be educated as to how they're part of the ecosystem and how they can make a difference. So I would rather see if you're going to put, any sort of cost on getting a paper bag, have it be 50 cents. So they actually have to make a choice. And the reason that those reusable bags are ending up in the recycling bins is because we don't have a ban on bags. So they say, yay, I have this, but when I go to the store, I know that I'm going to be enabled to take one of their bags. So, and also I go to the farmers markets all the time, and the farmers don't want to be handing out the plastic bags. So I actually go there with my extra bags that I have not purchased, but I have received from people not using them, and I hand them out to people at the farmers markets. So they don't want to be spending the money on it either. So I know that you guys have them in as a loophole, But if you just cut it out completely, the citizens won't be enabled. They'll actually be empowered to bring their own darn bag. Because our grandparents and our great-grandparents, everything was in bulk. Your milk was delivered in a glass jar and you put it back and it was refilled again. This is just ridiculous that we don't want to empower the citizens to stop being lazy and destroying the only place that we have. And Minneapolis is seen as a very forward-thinking city, so it shouldn't take this much debate just to make this happen. And I consider this a gateway, like a gateway drug, a gateway to fix our environment. Straws, any single-use plastic needs to be outlawed also. I've done the cleanup at Pike Island after a storm. I just went for a walk and was so appalled at what I saw that I had to start picking it up. And people that were docked at the beach started giving us garbage bags off of their boats, and other people started joining us. And it was plastic bags and plastic everything that was washing up from the Mississippi, which is ending up in the oceans. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next speaker is Adrian Typhon. Typhon. Might be mispronouncing that. Okay, welcome.
Hello. My name's Adrian Tipton, and I thank you guys for the opportunity to be here today. I'm actually not from the area, but I did spend my postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Minnesota in the Department of Chemistry. My PhD is in synthetic organic chemistry, so I have a bit of background in this area. I currently work for Novolex, who is a leading manufacturer in plastic bags in North America. We also have 2 recycling facilities, one of which is the largest in the world. My role there as Vice President of Innovation and Market Development actually is to develop new products, develop more sustainable products, because that's one of our initiatives, as well as to find things that are better for the environment, such as different types of paper and plastic materials. 3 things to take away today, and I think you've heard a lot of them. Plastic shopping bags actually are not made from crude oil. They're made from byproducts of natural gas. And the EPA actually states that less than 0.5% of plastic shopping bags make up the waste in the United States. And plastic bags are recyclable and they are reusable. So I know we've heard a lot about this, but if we reuse them and recycle them, the actual waste stream will continue to decrease. I think a lot of that has to go with education. Novolex does have an education program for this, but I think we could do better and more in this area. In particular, convenience stores actually are said to be responsible for over 80% of the plastic bags you see floating around. So a lot of these bag programs, these recycle programs, are in major grocery stores and retail stores. I think we could do a better job in convenience stores to address that. But 90% of the U.S. population has access to these drop-off points. There's several locations around 10-mile radius of this building, in fact. And you'll see here, this is the type of material we collect here up on the upper, in the lower right. And Americans recycle 1.17 billion pounds of plastic bags and film a year. Now, film is everywhere. It's not just bags. You receive mattresses in it, furniture in it, all of that stuff. So there's a lot of other plastics that go into the U.S. waste stream, but 1.17 billion pounds are recycled in bags alone at various drop-off facilities. But again, I think we could do a better job of that. Just to show you a little bit about our employees, some 3 hours away from here in Shawano, Wisconsin, we have one of the leading recycle facilities, but we actually recycle post-consumer HDPE and LDPE plastic films. We collect those in store, and we also purchase some on the market, and we put those through a separator, we wash the film, we shred it, and then we put it in, we make it into pellets. But again, we have one of the world's largest closed-loop recycling systems in the world. And we're very proud of that and the technology that goes into it. Our Shawano facility has 150 employees, and we hold over 10 patents in that facility for the way they recycle the material. We then generate pellets out of this, which actually can either go into plastic bags, which is what we tend to manufacture, can liners, films, different types of plastic bags, but then we also have seen it in outdoor decking, playground equipment, and other types of materials as well.
Could you wrap it up, please?
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
So with that, we just want to say reuse, recycle, reduce. So I think a lot of people know that we can recycle bags. We want people to have a choice in the marketplace of what they can choose to carry out their materials in. And we just need to think about the implications of a bag ban and a tax in terms of how it'll affect the retailers, how it'll affect the consumers, and how it'll affect jobs in the U.S. And so we just ask that you give that the consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Next, I have Kiko Visi. You can correct that pronunciation for me.
Hi, thanks Chairman Gordon and the committee for having us here today and this opportunity to speak. My name is Keiko Visi. I am a resident of Ward 13, and I am honored to be the chair of Linden Hills Power and Light. Excuse me. As a city that has demonstrated its commitment to progressive environmental policy, including a vision of zero waste Minneapolis, this plastic bag ban is consistent with the values of our city and our citizens to take it to the next step. Banning plastic bags reduces our city's overall carbon footprint and combats climate change in a very simple way. Banning unnecessary plastic bags reduces our reliance on and use of fossil fuels and the environmental damage that is associated with drilling, processing, transport, and the use of these fuels. Banning plastic bags beautifies our surrounding and our local resources. Over the years, I have participated in various cleanup events around our gorgeous city. Each and every time, there is an astonishing amount of plastic bags that are collected as part of these cleanup efforts. Remains of plastic bags are embedded in the shoreline, stuck in the branches of trees, and blowing across the paths. Yet, what's collected is just shreds of bags. The other parts of the bags are in the lakes, in the creeks, clogging up our storm sewers, and even worse. Banning plastic bags saves us money and increases the efficiency of our recycling processes. As the folks from Eureka have pointed out, that even though these bags are prohibited from our single sort recycling, they inevitably find their way into the recycling stream and they clog up the sorting and recycling machinery. This creates significant costs for our recycling processors, which in turn is passed along to the city and our taxpayers. Banning plastic bags prevents air pollution, especially among our most vulnerable population. Single-use plastic bags that don't end up clogging up our recycling machinery or as litter around our city will end up being burned in the burner. Even with the best technology, burning plastic releases some nasty chemicals, including dioxins, into the air completely unnecessarily. While I understand there's hesitancy from retailers regarding this proposal, this is a very small cost of doing business within Minneapolis, and I'm confident that our smart local business owners can figure it out. Large retailers like Aldi and IKEA have successfully implemented programs where customers pay for their bags or bring their own. Most local grocery stores already offer an option of giving a credit or a discount when customers bring their own bags. Collecting a fee for paper bags does not seem to be such an administrative hurdle as to outweigh the benefits of implementing this proposal. There are many common sense and reasonable exceptions provided here. We have the benefit of learning from the over 150 cities and countries internationally that have adopted plastic bag bans already. And this proposal reflects the lessons learned from those early adopters. The proposal in front of this committee and this council is extremely reasonable and balanced. Reducing the amount of plastic is key towards moving us towards the common goal of a zero waste city. There are many instances where reducing or eliminating plastic is very difficult, but eliminating single-use plastic bags is one of the easiest. Paper bags do have an environmental benefit, an environmental impact. However, the long-term impact of paper bags is not nearly as severe as plastic. Therefore, it's reasonable to me, and in this proposal, to ban plastic bags and discourage paper bag use initially through a very small fee. And that way, then we can move us away from just recycling and up the hierarchy towards reusing and reducing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Jessica Reppert. Oh, sorry, maybe it's Reinhardt. Jessica? Not seeing her here. Is Martin Medansky here? Okay. Is Thalia Garcia here?
Okay, it's Talia Garcia.
Thalia, sorry.
Okay, Chair Gordon and committee members, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you about bring your own bag ordinance. Buju, Talian Dishnaka, Raganashi Mung, Makondudem. My name is Talia Garcia. I'm from the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe and Bear Clan, and I'm here with my group. Hold on. Yeah, I'm here with my group, Little Earth Youth Center, and we are absolutely in favor of your bring your own bag. I believe this is a big issue because the average family takes home almost 1,500 plastic bags per year. They take up to 1,000 years to break down. At least 267 different species have suffered from getting caught in or eating them. A lot of people that are against the ban is making money off of it. I believe we should get rid of it because it isn't good for our planet. Minnesota itself is 87,000 tons that are thrown away each year. Thank you for this opportunity to address this, Council, and thank you for all you do for the city.
Well, thank you so much for coming down today and sharing that with us. Next speaker is Ricardo McCurley. And thanks to your support team for coming with you too. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair Gordon, City Council members. I wear three hats today. I am the Executive Director of the Whittier Alliance. I am also a new member on SEAC, and I'm a Ward 12 resident. From the Whittier Alliance, after presenting this potential ordinance to both our business representatives and our environmental task force, the environmental task force was in broad support of it. The business association actually was rather apathetic to it, and their only concern was a question of implementation and the fees, which it sounds like that you as a group are going to address with the organizations that are implementing it in the city structure. So that's really good to hear, and I think with that, our businesses are going to feel pretty good about this ordinance. As a member of SEAC, I wasn't around when this was created. However, I was so excited when I joined and heard about it because as a Ward 12 resident, my family and I have been battling this for a long time, and it's really a question of habit, and it's a generational question. And what's funny is that my children are now better at bringing bags than I am, and they are the impetus that get us to make sure that our bags are in the car when we go to the grocery store or anywhere else. They also see firsthand what plastic bags do because we have a small rain garden in front of our house, and it is convenience store bags that fill it every spring, every summer. We see it after the snow melts. So as a resident, I am also in favor of this. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Next speaker on the list is Kendra Riddle.
So hi, I'll take off my hat. I'm Kendra Riddle. I live in Ward 12 and I go to South High. And I'll just get straight to why this is really important to me as a young person, because it's like, we were talking about those upstream costs, the greenhouse gases. Like, this is really jeopardizing my future. And those fourth graders that were in here, who, if this ordinance passes, they won't even remember what plastic bags were at the grocery store by the time they're buying their own groceries, right? So that's something that's really important to me, and what we were talking about, young people are getting it. We're chill with bringing our own bag, some of our favorite stores, Buffalo Exchange, it's a hip consignment store in Uptown. I don't really think they have a lot of suits, but thanks. Yeah, they do a thing where they give you a token when you're done buying your stuff to put in an organization box that would so they give the money that they would have spent on your plastic bag, and you get to choose the organization you want to donate to. Last month they could choose between Youth Farm, a teen counseling thing, and some animal organization. So that's one way. Secondly, I want to touch on how this is really an environmental justice issue, and why we need to do this here in Minneapolis. For one reason, that we can be a leader on this matter, as like we have been a leader in the past, and two is because we have this Herc burner downtown, which is where most of our trash bags are ending up, and also not coincidentally where there's a high majority of people of color that live there and low-income residents. The trash being burned there is contributing to poor air quality, and that's affecting those residents. And we know that asthma is the #1 leading cause for students to miss school. And so this is hurting young people, not just in the future, but now as well. And so we need to really be a leader on that as well. And so I also want to shout out and thank Council members Cano and Gordon and Johnson, who have voted for or against the water yard in East Phillips, because that's another environmental justice issue. Extra shout out to Council member Cano, who has led that initiative to deindustrialize the area and is continuing to do that despite the vote for it. Yeah, so that's all I have to say.
All right, well, thank you very much, and good for you to sneak in some comments on other topics that we're not talking about today. Just luckily, there's not too many speakers after you, or they might start trying to figure out what to work in there as well. Actually, I only have one more person signed up, but there still is an opportunity after the last person speaks. If you want to speak, I'll ask other people to get up. But the last person on my list is Diane Hofstede. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Gordon and members of the committee. I'm Diane Hofstede from Ward 3, Clean Action Water member. I just want to mention a few countries that have adopted changes to plastic bags and the use of them: Ethiopia, Somalia, China, and the state of Hawaii, in addition to cities such as San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Portland. It's really easy to purchase a small washable bag. This one I've had for over a decade and works really well. You can throw it in your trunk, put it on your body, your bike, or just bring it along with you as you shop. I also think that there can actually be some fun when we think about how we can lead by example. I'm looking forward to creative folks posting ways for us to remember to use our bags, YouTube videos, and other opportunities that we can entertain ourselves with the new changes. And I suggest, as the article in MinPost stated by Bill Ludke, he said, "I don't think that the plastic bag in my neighbor's tree is ever coming down. No firefighter will climb 100 feet to remove a plastic bag, and there will be no malevolent litter-fighting squirrel. It's a season's worth of budding leaves, and wind and rain haven't dislodged it. I don't know what will." You can. I applaud your willingness to bring this item before us as a public hearing and your willingness to lead. And I also look forward to the passage by the City Council, the mayor, in cooperation with the businesses and our consumers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who didn't sign up that would like to speak before I close the public hearing? Seeing no one, then I will close the public hearing. And we can discuss the matter. I think I will move the ordinance so that we have it properly before us and see if there's any discussion, any suggested amendments that anyone would like to make. And while you're thinking about that, I just want to thank everybody who's still here. Also thank everybody who came to speak on this. That was a lot of listening and a lot to get through, and I'm sure gave us some things to think about. Are there any questions or comments on the ordinance? Councilmember Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is our plastic bag monster okay? I just want to make sure. I imagine it's pretty hot under there. The bags are probably very insulated, but I appreciate you hanging in during this. Personally, I hate seeing these plastic bags floating around, getting caught in trees. I go and actually clean these out at Minnehaha Creek every year. And in 2010, I reached out to our state legislator, my state legislator at the time, Senator Linda Berglund. I said, hey, these plastic bags everywhere, is there some way to tackle this, and she actually drafted an ordinance, or not an ordinance, a state statute, a bill, to add a 5-cent fee on both paper and plastic bags. So slight little bit of trivia. I ended up lobbying behind that. If Ann is still here from the Audubon Society, I appreciate the support of the Audubon Society on that measure. It was during the time of the Palenti administration, so of course it didn't actually go anywhere. But it ultimately inspired other cities to look at the measure. Other states also looked at the information that we had collected. With this particular ordinance, I do have some concerns about particularly the loophole that is in here that essentially would require or would allow and incentivize paper bag consumption, increased paper bag consumption. And actually the MPCA mentioned that in Portland they saw a 500% increase in paper bag usage, which is 4 times more environmentally costly, 4 times the environmental impact of plastic bags, well, the HDPE plastic bags specifically. And that credit, this credit that creates that loophole, was actually not part of the Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee recommendations. So it has since been added in there, which then creates these unintended consequences. In terms of this ordinance, acknowledging the increase in paper bag use, it is worse in terms of upstream impact. And I'm sensitive to that. Kendra, who is here, I'm not sure if she's still here, but Kendra from my ward, who spoke before us, mentioned that her biggest concern here is the impact of greenhouse gases. Well, if we're increasing paper bag consumption 500%, we have a larger greenhouse gas impact, larger environmental footprint. And I just want to say that, I also think it's important that we follow the MPCA's advice on including language for evaluating and reporting on this ordinance. And so I have concerns that we have opportunities to improve it. I've actually worked on some potential amendment language. I've talked with some council members about it. Frankly, I think I would like to see another cycle for this. We did it for spitting and lurking, and that was ultimately past the ban. We did it for the animal care and control ordinances. So I would like it if we could have another cycle in order to work on some of these shortcomings of the ordinance to make sure that it is strong as possible. And specifically, I think there's a way for us to tackle litter overall. We're not Texas, but if we were Texas, plastic bags are only 2% of the litter according to their audit. I'd like to take care of 100% of the litter. When I'm walking down my streets, I'm seeing crushed aluminum cans, I'm seeing plastic bottles, I'm seeing candy wrappers, I'm seeing potato chip bags. I see all this stuff. When I go and clean the creek, we see all that, and even found a patio space heater in the creek. I couldn't believe that one. But, we have a huge opportunity here, and so I think we need to do this right. And I'm actually going to contest what Mr. Garwood said. He said that the point of this, the goal of the ordinance, was to change consumer behavior. That's not the point of the ordinance. The point of the ordinance is to reduce litter and have a better environmental impact. Changing human behavior is one way you get to that specific outcome of a better impact on the environment. That's not the ultimate goal. That's not the goal, is to change human behavior. The goal is to leave our environment better than we found it. So how are we going to do that? I think we have opportunities in this ordinance left. If we don't stay this over another council cycle, I'll work before our next full council cycle to try to get these changes together, but I'd like changes to be fully vetted so that we have an opportunity to make sure it's as rock solid as possible. There's no need to ultimately rush something through that's going to be environmentally weaker when we can come up with something that's going to be stronger. And I also want to mention, too, if the goal of the ordinance was, let's say hypothetically, to change consumer behavior, then it fails in that regard if it's increasing paper bag consumption. Because the goal is, according to the ordinance title, bring your own bag. Well, if we're just ultimately increasing consumption of another type of more environmentally costly type of bag, that's a problem. I have a problem with that. These unintended consequences, they do matter. Take it from me as a former systems engineer, you have to be able to understand where you're going to have impacts all around on something like this. And I'm concerned about the shortcomings and the loopholes and the consequences that are going to happen if we don't make sure we cover all of our bases here and really put the environment, reducing greenhouse gases, and reducing litter first in this. And so with that, I'd move that we carry this over into our next committee meeting so that we have time to work on fixing the shortcomings of this ordinance. But I really appreciate the intent. Like I said, I hate seeing these things floating around. So at the end of the day, you know, this is